I spent 60 years of my life trying to fix other people, trying to save them, trying to change them. And I called it love, I called it loyalty, I called it being a good man. I was wrong about everything. You see, I was raised to believe that if you loved someone enough, if you were patient enough, if you just gave enough of yourself, you could help them become better. You could heal them. You could transform them through the power of your devotion. My mother told me this. My church told me this. Society told me this. Stand by your family. Never give up on people. Love conquers all. Beautiful words, noble sentiments, complete lies. Let me tell you what really happens when you spend your life trying to change other people. You lose yourself, you enable their worst behaviors, you become a hostage to their problems, and you wake up one day as an old man with nothing to show for it but exhaustion and regret. My name is Frank. I spent my working years as a social worker in Detroit. Good job for someone who thought he could save the world one broken person at a time. I was good at it too. My supervisors praised me. My colleagues respected me. I got awards for my dedication. But my real training ground wasn't at work. It was at home. My older brother Danny was an alcoholic. Started drinking when he was 16, never stopped. By the time he was 25, he'd lost 3 jobs, wrecked 2 cars, and been arrested twice. My parents were at their wits' end. That's when I stepped in. I was 23, fresh out of college, full of ideas about how to help people. I moved Danny into my apartment, got him into rehab programs, paid for his therapy, drove him to AA meetings, covered his rent when he couldn't work, made excuses to our parents when he disappeared for days. For 37 years, I was Danny's keeper. He'd get sober for 3 months, 6 months once. I'd think, this is it. This time it's working. Then he'd relapse, and I'd start over. New program, new therapist, new approach. Because that's what good brothers do, right? You don't give up. I married Susan in 1968. She was a teacher, kind and patient. She understood about Danny. At first, she'd help me strategize ways to reach him. She'd come with me to family therapy sessions. She believed, like I did, that love could conquer addiction. But love can't conquer addiction. Only the addict can do that. And Danny never chose to. By the mid-70s, Susan was getting tired. She'd see me scrambling to cover Danny's latest crisis, and she'd say, Frank, maybe you need to step back. Let him face the consequences. But I couldn't. What if this time was different? What if he finally hit bottom? What if he needed me and I wasn't there? So I kept going, kept trying, kept believing I could be the thing that finally turned him around. In 1981, Susan and I separated. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because she couldn't watch me destroy myself, trying to save Danny. She said, you care more about fixing him than you do about building a life with me. She wasn't wrong. We divorced in 1983. She remarried 2 years later. Had the family she'd always wanted with someone else. Someone who wasn't spending every weekend at jail or rehab or chasing down their drunk brother in downtown Detroit. But I couldn't stop, because now Danny was all I had left. And if I gave up on him, what did that make me? What kind of person abandons family? The thing is, I wasn't helping Danny. I was enabling him. Every time I bailed him out, I removed the natural consequences of his choices. Every time I covered for him, I made it easier for him to keep drinking. I thought I was showing love, but I was actually preventing him from hitting the bottom that might have forced him to change. My job suffered too. I was so drained from dealing with Danny that I had nothing left for my clients. I'd sit in sessions, nodding along, going through the motions, but my heart wasn't there. My energy was gone. I was running on fumes. I retired at 62, couldn't handle it anymore. Told myself I needed to focus on Danny full time, that maybe if I really dedicated myself, I could finally reach him. 3 more years of the same cycle. Promises and relapses, hope and disappointment, him taking and me giving until I had nothing left to give. Danny died in 2007, liver failure. He was 64 years old. I was there in the hospital when it happened, held his hand. He was barely conscious, but I kept talking to him, telling him I loved him, telling him I forgave him, hoping he could hear me. At his funeral, people said I was a saint. What a devoted brother, they said. You never gave up on him. They meant it as a compliment. But sitting there, looking at his casket, I realized something terrible. I had given up on myself for 37 years. And for what? Danny died exactly as he would have died if I'd stepped back 20 years earlier. The only difference was that I'd wasted my life in the process. After the funeral, I went home to my empty apartment. Susan had tried to reach out a few times over the years, but I'd always been too busy with Danny's latest crisis. She'd remarried, moved to California, built a new life. My parents were gone. I had some acquaintances from work, but no real friends. I'd sacrificed every relationship on the altar of Danny's addiction. That's when it hit me. I'd spent my entire adult life in a fantasy. I'd believed that if I just loved Danny enough, if I just tried hard enough, if I just found the right words or the right program or the right approach, I could save him. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. More than that, trying to save him had destroyed me. I'd lost my marriage, I'd damaged my career, I'd neglected every other relationship in my life. I'd turned myself into a professional rescuer, and in the process, I'd forgotten how to live my own life. The cruel irony is that my constant interference probably made things worse for Danny. Instead of learning to manage his addiction himself, he learned to rely on me to clean up his messes. Instead of developing coping skills, he developed manipulation skills. He knew exactly what to say to get me to help him one more time. I see this pattern everywhere now. People who've convinced themselves that changing others is love. The wife who's been trying to fix her alcoholic husband for 20 years. The mother who keeps bailing out her drug-addicted son. The friend who's always trying to solve everyone else's problems. They all tell themselves the same story I told myself. If I don't help them, who will? Family sticks together. You don't give up on people you love. But what they're really doing is avoiding their own lives. It's easier to focus on someone else's problems than to face your own. Here's what I've learned in the 14 years since Danny died. You can't change anyone. You can't fix anyone. You can't save anyone. The only person you have any control over is yourself. And every minute you spend trying to change someone else is a minute you're not spending living your own life. This doesn't mean you don't care about people. It doesn't mean you abandon everyone who's struggling. It means you learn the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. It means you set boundaries. It means you take care of yourself first, because you can't help anyone if you're drowning. The hardest part is admitting that all those years weren't noble sacrifice. They were avoidance. I was avoiding the scary work of building my own life. By staying busy with Danny's problems, I was avoiding the risk of real intimacy with Susan by always having Danny as an excuse. I was avoiding the possibility of failure by focusing on someone else's failures instead. After Danny's death, I had to learn how to live for myself. At 69 years old, I had to figure out who I was beyond being Danny's caretaker. It was terrifying. I'd defined myself by my role as a helper for so long that I didn't know what else I was. I started small, took a pottery class at the community center, joined a book club, volunteered at the library, but in a role that had clear boundaries and didn't involve trying to save anyone. Slowly, I started to remember what I enjoyed, what made me feel alive. I reached out to some old colleagues, made new friends, started traveling. Not to exotic places, just around Michigan. Seeing things I'd never had time for when I was always dealing with Danny's latest crisis. I even dated a little. Met a woman named Margaret through the book club. We had coffee a few times. Nothing serious, but it reminded me what it felt like to connect with someone without having an agenda to fix them. The transformation wasn't dramatic. I didn't suddenly become a new person. But gradually, I started to feel like myself again, like I was living my life instead of just reacting to someone else's. Now, at 81, I can see clearly what I couldn't see for 60 years. Love isn't trying to change someone. Love is accepting them as they are and taking care of yourself so you can be genuinely present when they need you. Love is knowing when to help and when to step back. Love is understanding that everyone has their own journey and you can't walk it for them. If I could go back and talk to my 23-year-old self, here's what I'd say. You can't save Danny, and trying to save him will cost you everything else. Support him when he asks for help, but don't make his problems your problems. Build your own life. Invest in your marriage. Take care of yourself, because in 40 years he'll still be drinking, and you'll be an old man with nothing but regrets. But I can't go back. None of us can. All I can do is share what I've learned and hope it reaches someone who's making the same mistake I made. So let me ask you this. Is there someone in your life you're trying to change? Someone whose problems have become your problems? Someone you've been helping for years with no real progress? Are you pouring yourself into their life while neglecting your own? If the answer is yes, you need to stop. Today, not next month, not after you give it one more try. Today, set boundaries. Stop enabling. Start living for yourself. It's not selfish, it's necessary. You can't help anyone if you're drowning, and you definitely can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Here's what you can do right now, today. Identify one boundary you need to set with this person. Maybe it's not lending them money anymore. Maybe it's not dropping everything when they call in crisis. Maybe it's not making excuses for their behavior to other people. Whatever it is, decide on that boundary and stick to it. The person won't like it. They'll try to make you feel guilty. They'll tell you you're abandoning them. They'll say you don't really love them. Don't listen. Those are the words of someone who's gotten used to having you clean up their messes. Of course, they don't want that to change, but change it anyway. Because your life is finite. You don't have unlimited time to waste on people who won't help themselves. You don't have endless energy to pour into someone else's problems.
You have one life to live, and you're the only one responsible for living it. I'm 81 years old. I spent 60 years learning this lesson the hard way. Start now, today, this moment. Your future self will thank you. Trust me.